everyone, today I want to share with you the story of how I was diagnosed with triple negative breast cancer at the age of 29 years old. And that was over 10 years ago now. And the reason that I want to share with you my story is also to share not just what happened to me, but also the wisdom, the learnings that I found along the way of being diagnosed at such a young age. We young women face different challenges than those, for example, who have been diagnosed at a later age. And if you're someone that is young and that has just been diagnosed with cancer, I just want you to know that you are not alone. It's more common than you think. So if you're someone that wants to stress less and live more after a cancer diagnosis, then go ahead and subscribe to my channel today. So my story started off one night when I was in the shower and I found a lump on my left breast. And it was such a shock because I felt like it came out of nowhere. When I think about it, there were definitely symptoms that I experienced before this night where I found the lump. One of them was itching in my left nipple, and also I experienced some discharge as well. So I booked in to see a doctor the very next day, and when I got to the clinic I met with an older lady. When I told her about this lump, hey, can you please check out this lump, she was like really calm. She was like, don't worry, it's probably nothing. It's probably a fibroadenoma, which is a benign lump. And actually a lot of young women have this. And so it's really nothing to worry about. So part of me wanted to believe her and kind of walk out of that clinic, never to come back and never think about this lump again. But there was another part of me that said, hey, what if this is cancer and we missed it, right? We didn't get a chance to have a scan. And so in that split second, I decided that I was going to push for a scan. And, I got really upset. I started crying and the doctor relented and said, hey, okay, you can just go for a scan, an ultrasound and a mammogram. And so I was so nervous going into the place where they did the scan. And immediately one of the technicians said, before seeing me, before doing any scan, she just said, look, don't worry about it. You probably don't need a mammogram. And so I went in for the ultrasound first. And after the ultrasound, I knew something was wrong when they told me to go get a mammogram after that. So that same day, they sent me back to the doctor. And she told me the bad news that it was cancer. And this happened in the space of a couple of hours. Everything was pretty much done in that day. And so the moral of that story is that if you're a young woman and you feel like you have symptoms of breast cancer, then make sure that you do get a scan and get multiple different scans. So there's ultrasound, there's mammograms, there's MRIs, there's all these different scans that you need to do. And some lumps, right, some breast cancers don't even show up in one scan. And so it's important that you persist and that you get a clear diagnosis of what that lump is. So don't be afraid to speak up to your doctor if you feel like you're not being taken seriously. To be diagnosed with cancer is such an emotional roller coaster ride. And it's important to, first of all, if you have just recently been diagnosed, you really have to think about what are your beliefs about cancer. For me, I associate cancer with death. I really thought that once you're diagnosed with cancer that you will die. It's not a matter of if you'll die, but when will you die? But of course this isn't true. So after the scan, I had to go and do a biopsy. So even though we can see the lump under these different types of scans, we really have to confirm that the lump is indeed cancer. And the only way that you can do this is to take a biopsy of the lump, right? You have to take a little bit of the tissue out, look at under the microscope and really determine and confirm that it is cancer. And after the pathology report came back, they told me I had a specific type of breast cancer called triple negative breast cancer. And what you'll find with triple negative breast cancer is that a lot of young women are diagnosed with this type of breast cancer. Before I could start on any cancer treatments, I had to think about my fertility, and we had to undergo a fertility preservation procedure, which is essentially IVF, where they took eggs from my ovaries and made an embryo. I think this is one of the additional stress that young people face when they're faced with cancer, as opposed to older people, right? We have to face the possibility that our fertility will be compromised due to cancer treatments. So my fertility preservation was successful. I had 12 embryos at the end, but I suffered from horrific side effects called ovarian hyperstimulation syndrome. But once I recovered from that, I was then able to start on chemo and then surgery and then radiation afterward. What I've noticed is that cancer doctors don't really give you a lot of lifestyle tips for when you're going through cancer treatment. And so I took it upon myself to kind of research this area and kind of empowered myself with actions to reduce side effects, to make myself feel better, and to recover faster during cancer treatment, which I think is so important. Fortunately for me, I was able to conceive a child naturally, so we didn't even had to use the embryos that were saved during our fertility preservation procedure. The reason being was that they didn't thaw well and in fact wouldn't have been viable anyway. So to recap, if you're someone that believes that they may have a cancer, make sure that you are seen and that you are heard by a doctor. So if you are someone that has been recently diagnosed with cancer, know that you are not alone, and there are many young people that are going through this. The challenges that you face may be different, but because you are younger, your body is much stronger, being able to withstand the harsh cancer treatments that is ahead of you. Lastly, know that cancer isn't necessarily a death sentence and that you can survive this too.